So I'm trying to do another temperature test, and yeah, it did not go that great. Partly because I think the belt was too loose. I ended up taking up two things. So I started off, worked fine to start, but towards the middle here, the noise changed. It started to sound like things were spinning slower. I was checking all the temps, and you'll see here shortly, I decided to, okay, I'll just add a tiny bit more oil. I'm looking to try and figure out what's going on. Add a little bit more oil, and right in here, the pulley stops, but the motor didn't. So take everything apart, start the big redo process. Fun. All right, well, I think I figured out that the belts are too loose. And the reason I say that is there's oil in here. Now, granted, some of it got dark again, or that may have just come out of the felts. It's hard to tell sometimes. But it spun up, and then the noise changed slightly, and it sounded like it was slowing down a little bit. And then eventually the belt stopped turning it. And the pulley, that was a few minutes ago, and the pulley is still at 125. It was well over 140. I touched it and was like, really hot after it stopped spinning. So I figured, okay, well, maybe it wasn't getting oil. No, there was oil. Yeah, there's oil the whole way across on there. And it feels like there's oil the whole way across there. So I think it's just that the belt was too loose. We're going to go with that because the pulley was 140 degrees, but this part on the shaft is cold, meaning the shaft only got up to like 68, 70 something degrees, and the pulley was 140 plus. So that to me means that it was friction on the pulley with the belts, not the shaft in the bearings. Because if it was a shaft in the bearings, these would be hot, and these aren't hot. It's only it started out at 59 degrees, so the fact that these are only, 63, 65, and that the pulley itself is, many minutes later, 125. I suspect that that's what that is. So after that, I start testing and shortening the belts, and noticed that it's leaking a bunch of oil on the pulley side again. Cleaned that up, put containers down to test it some more. Tried with one, didn't seem to work. Had to take another link out, so 2 links total came out. There you can see the oil dripping out the same spot as before, and I had the one container down for where it was coming in on the other side of the bearing, but this time it was on that side. So I get some of the felt from thefeltstore.com. That ends up looking really awesome. It seems really awesome. I think I cut it a little bit too thick was the problem, which I may have to thin that down because I think it's causing too much friction, but I got that in, and at least it wasn't leaking and dripping afterwards. But I did a bunch of back and forth with the different settings and the thickness of the pads and all sorts of stuff, and it just was not a good day. I eventually got it in, tried it again, and the temperatures were a little better, but it was still leaking a bunch of oil. Well, I tried to do another temperature test several times now, and it's not going as smoothly as it did before. There's more oil spraying out everywhere still. Because you can see where on the joiner the paper is. There's oil spots. There's little oil spots all over this. So it's throwing it from there clear over here. It got it all over my phone, which was sitting here as a timer. It sprayed it all along here. And I ended up adding back in some of the spacers because I wasn't able to tighten it enough. So it makes a little bit of noise when I try and lift up, which is not ideal, but it wouldn't let me tighten it right otherwise. And on this side, I added in felt along the bottom edge, and it's, I'm pretty sure, fully saturated, so it's stopped going quite as bad, but problem is, when I was testing with the temperature thing, I'm thinking the felt is pressing a little bit too much. And you can see down there where the oil dripped down into that bin. That's going down this center section now, not the side, and dripping down the inside, and that's what's going into that container. And it also dribbled down there. And yeah, let's see. A cleaner piece of t-shirt along here. And it's now not clean, so it's still leaking out the bottom on this side, even with the felt. And yeah, that's just not ideal, because that's quite a bit of oil to come out in 2 minutes. Because yeah, this is 2 minutes of oil, and it's not that I don't think I have too much in there, because it's down, well, let's see, this one, it's slightly above the hole going in. This side, it's basically at the bottom of the hole that goes from the cup into the block. It's just not happy. So I don't know what to do with this thing. One part of me says, yeah, keep working on it. One part of me says, I'd rather have a working machine than just something I fight with and never get sorted. And yeah, I know, I shouldn't give up easy, so I'm probably going to keep poking at it, but I wasn't sure about these bearings. I mean, if properly maintained and if properly set up, they pretty much last forever as long as you add oil, whereas ball bearings and stuff do wear out and you have to replace them. Hence why this is, 110 plus years old and the bearings are still here. But, yeah, I don't know. But the other thing I was worried about is, because I added that felt that the shaft is pressing on underneath, and I did soak it with oil first, but even if something's soaked in oil, if there's friction, it's going to heat up. Well, the shaft, while I was recording before I turned things off, right next to the edge of this bearing, basically right above where the felt was, within 2 minutes was like 125 degrees because of the friction from there. Which that's not ideal, because eventually it'll either evaporate. Yeah, there's even oil on this outside section, which is not ideal. So that probably means that the felt is too thick and it's pressing too much on the shaft. I do have it such that it spins easy, so it's not clamped too hard, because I can pull the belt and it spins afterwards versus it immediately stopping. So I know it's not clamped too hard in the blocks. I don't know. It's hard. Plus, I managed earlier, before I took the 2 links out, the belt was slipping, and then after I stopped it, I came over to try and take the belts off, and this pulley was so hot, it burned my hand, so I yanked my hand out away from it, because, touch ow kind of thing, and I managed to smack into something on this side that was sharp enough to ding and mess things up, so that's always fun too. So yeah. Blood sacrifice plus still doesn't work, and dripping oil everywhere, which is not going to be ideal. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it's sprayed up all over this too. Well, I don't know if that shows up, but yeah, there's oil droplets all over the place because of this, all in line with this section. So I have to figure out what I want to try. I don't really have the machine. I mean, I theoretically could design and come up with something that would use pillow blocks or actual proper bearings and like replace this side and that side and the cross piece that holds it together. Because as long as I had a piece of metal in this section that was clamped with the same braces that we had this block in place, and similar on the other side. There's no reason I couldn't put a ball bearing or some sort of similar setup on this same shaft. I would just have this bearing block separate out. But I don't have a machine shop to make that, and I don't know of a good place around. I'm sure I could come up with something that somebody would figure out and make. But I don't want to mess up this block, because I'd rather keep the bearing block original, even if I make something else. Just because that way, if and when I ever decide to get rid of it or get fed up with it and I try and sell it, someone may want to have both the bearings and the original, depending if they want to shift back. So, yeah. Frustrated, not real happy, minorly injured, oil all over the place. And I also don't want the oil spraying all over if I end up trying to do jointing on it, because, that's not good either. Because you don't want oil all over your boards, because if that soaks in, depending on what it is, even if you're going from rough sawn to more finish, the oil will soak in and you have messed up stuff. So, yeah. Not the best. Not a productive day. Not a successful project. But I guess not all of them can be successful, right? So, I'm going to put this away and fight with it a different day, because I'm fed up with it today. So, yeah. That's where this one gets left out, as a fed up state. Oh well.